Grace in Chaos.
Grace in Chaos. Grace in Chaos. Grace in Chaos.
Grace in Chaos.
Grace in Chaos. Grace in Chaos.
Hello, hello. I'm Kaylee.
I'm Katrina.
And this is Grace in Chaos.
Episode 13.
Woo! That's awesome.
Henry actually texted me. I think he listened to our episode 12 like yesterday or the day before. And he was like, wow, episode 12. Like 12
Isn't
weeks.
that crazy?
3 months. I was like, oh.
When you put it that way, it sounds
cooler.
gross. Like, I've done this for 3 whole months.
I know. I was like, oh, yeah, we're doing this. Like, it's still like.
We're still
is this reality?
Believing ourselves. If you're still here, thank you.
Thanks.
That's awesome. Okay, check in. How's your week?
Good. It was my birthday.
It was.
On Tuesday, and that was nice and special. And it was funny actually because I am really good at like making other people feel good and special, but like when it comes to me, sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I make things special on an everyday basis, but like specifically for my birthday, I get kind of weird sometimes. And so my closest friend here threw me like a little lunch, and it was so cute.
It really
like
was adorable.
Themed. Yeah, I was so happy.
She did
and
very,
just,
very good. I was very grateful for her.
Yes. And it worked out, though. Her sister-in-law had a fiesta-styled graduation party over the weekend.
Oh, perfect.
And I was like, I love that theme. So it just like made more sense
yes.
to be able to have that much for such a small thing.
Yeah.
And then but it was the night before, I was like thinking, because I go all out for all my kids' birthdays. Like I decorate the night before so that they wake up, they get their presents, they see like whatever theme they wanted of decorations. And then I even do something like simple for Henry, but I still decorate to make it special.
You decorated for Alexis's birthday when we were there. Like
I love
you
doing
make
that.
it a thing, and it's so sweet. Yeah.
Thank you. I love that. But then I was like, well, thinking from my kids' perspective, like they're going to wake up on mom's birthday and she gets nothing. Like Henry was out of town. Let me preface that. So it's not like he's just like completely like, I'm not doing that. No, he wasn't here. So
and he would if he
would have.
Maybe with a little bit of prompting.
Maybe
but
I would have like been like, hey, you should do that for the kids. But I had that moment to myself. I was like, well, shoot, like I don't want my kids to be like, we get all like mom gets nothing, because they don't put it together. Like it's like, you know, as you grow up, even Christmas, you realize all the quote unquote magic, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, I gotta decorate for myself because I just want them to like, and it was also like, I guess kind of healing for myself. Like it's okay to celebrate yourself. Like I'm still learning how to do that. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then it worked out, and like my friends got me some gifts, which was just sweet. Like, I don't know. I really get zero expectations, because what is it? Expectations lead to disappointment sometimes. Like, you know, if you're like, oh, like, I hope someone does something for me in that aspect, that's where like you can potentially be disappointed, where I'm like, no expectations. If someone does something awesome, I love it. I feel so grateful. But I'm not going to walk around expecting everyone to be like,
you're not the it's my birthday month girl. Yeah. Like that's just
I mean,
not
I
you.
am, and I'm
for
not.
your kids
like,
though. Glad you
great.
celebrated yourself. That makes me happy that you have a village.
Yeah, and Henry did come. I give him props for sure. I don't mean to make it sound like he did nothing. He like adjusted his recruiting schedule to be able to fly home for like less than 24 hours, come see me, and then he's back on the road. But that's why this week has probably felt more like a hodgepodge, because I have like a lot to do, and it's just me.
It's just you.
What about you? What about your week?
So it was good. I'm realizing that I don't know that my kids were being monsters as much as I was hormonal.
Yesterday they were monsters. Today we have some self-reflection.
I'm like, it was me. Sure, did they probably not help it? Yes, that's probably true. But I think it was more me than anything. But it was a good week. I got my hair done.
Looks beautiful.
Thank you. So I've talked to you about this several times. We have never taken family photos as a family of 4, and my oldest or my youngest is 5. So we've never taken photos. We did take photos with Kalia in them, but they were engagement photos that she just happened to be there for, which was great. So it was time, but we just never were able to swing it with money, and just there's always something. I talked about this on Instagram the other day. There's always something, because family photos, looking into the price, maybe I'm looking at really, really good photographers, but they're like $600-$700 a session for a full.
Glad I don't live in Dallas.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, but I just paid for something that was like, seriously.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah. And maybe it's for, and I don't think I'm being unreasonable. Like I don't want to go do family photos and get 10 photos. Like,
but there was a time where you could spend $300 on a solid photographer, get her for an hour, and then you get the whole gallery. Like there was a time that existed.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
But that was also when we were paying $100 to get our hair done. So there's that. And maybe $1,100 for a 3-bedroom apartment. Not reality anymore, Trina.
Yeah, no, totally.
But so it just never happened, because to get you have to pay that much for the photographer, but I'm not showing up with roots because your girl has dark hair and I don't love it. So I bleach my hair to Kingdom Come, which costs money. I used to not do my own nails, so it would cost me more money, but you just start adding up and you get into like the 2000s very quickly. The outfits, the shoes, because it feels like every time you go to take family photos, everyone's grown out of their shoes or lost one. Like, my shoes are no longer in style, so you got to go get new shoes, got to go get a bra to go with that cute dress, because you can't see your black bra under. Like, it just adds up. And so I literally had complained, really is what it was, to Lex like 5 or 6 times, and was just like, I am low-key feeling guilty because my youngest has never been in a single family photo of ours. It's literally just iPhone photos. That's it. And so Lex is like, you should maybe pray about that, because I don't know what we're gonna do to solve that at this moment. And I said like one sarcastic prayer. That's so terrible. I said one. I was like, God, make a way. But it was really what I want. But it was really coming from a place of like, oh, seriously, like my heart's sad. Like I want photos with my kids. And like,
but on the other hand, I can imagine the frame of mind of like, this sounds a little like
pretentious. It felt so silly, because I was like, God, like you have bigger fish to fry. There are wars. It feels like there are people dying, Kim. It felt like that.
I understand.
So I was like, okay. And so I said the prayer. Dude, the fact that God heard me in my sass. I have a friend reaches out to me and she's like, hey, our photographer, who is incredible, by the way, like she's so great, and I've loved her photos that she's taken of this family. She's like, our photographer is looking for a model family, and it needs to be a family of 4 or more. Mind it, she's a family of 4, but she was like, and I really think that I'm going to pass your name along for this. And I was like, are you kidding? And so I just shoot her a message on Instagram, or on Facebook, actually, because I don't ever get on Facebook, but I went on Facebook, shot this lady a message, and our friend was like, oh, she's already chosen you. And I was like, what? And so the photographer reaches back out and she's like, I'm going to send you coordinating info. Literally every prayer answered. She provided the whole wardrobe. My kids looked so cute. They were all like Zara outfits. She bought a dress for me that was like a $300 dress for her. And it's going to go in the collection. So like she'll use it again. But and like she took it, like she asked me questions about, what do you feel comfortable in? What are things that you like wearing? What are things that you don't feel like makes you feel your best self? And I was like, I'm plus sized. I really like don't love my arms. Like I don't want my arms out in the family photos. She's like, but I really love your tattoos. Can we if I find a dress that kind of fits it all, let me send you some. So she finds this beautiful dress with like cut open sleeves, but it covers the parts of my arms that I don't love. And just, it was awesome. So she shows up, she styles Alexis, like she styles all of us down to like the bows in their head. Like everything. I was flabbergasted, and she was incredible. And how I knew this was God is because I'm messaging her on a Saturday evening, like last Saturday, and she goes, "Hey, I'm going to put my phone down, and you're not going to hear back from me till Monday. I honor the Sabbath, and like, that's something I'm just very firm on with the Lord." And I was like, "You better honor that Sabbath." Like, it was just,
you better not text me back.
But I was literally like,
I'm going to test you. I'm going to test you. Just kidding.
But it was so cool because she was just so firm on that, and like, just so awesome. And we, at the photos, was like, great with the girls. Our girls were angel like photography kids, apparently. Mine, I don't know this because they've never been instructed to do anything for photos. Like they've never been posed. And she reaches out on the way home and was like, because this was so the whole point of having us there is there was a bunch of student photographers. So there's probably like 600 photos taken of us because she's
teaching.
Yes. So she's teaching different lighting. She's teaching different. So that's how you know she's really good, is because people are paying to take classes with her and using us as the models. And then she reaches out the next day and was like, "I just want to tell you, I've been photographing for over 10, 15 years. And at this point, like, this was one of my top 3 photo shoots I've ever done. I genuinely loved every second of it. The Lord definitely drew me to you guys. And like, it was just, I knew you could feel the Lord's presence on it." And I was like, and then she was like, "I'll be using you guys for more photos in the future." And like, I'm just so excited. And it was completely free.
That's so special.
And she was like, typically, if it's a family that I don't like vibe with very well for these type of photo shoots, you'll get like 15 photos. She's like, "I'm going to send you the full gallery of like 50 plus.
Unicorn. That is the best, though. I could only imagine from her perspective of like, it's probably not the first time she's done something like this. Like photographers, it's typical that if you need things like content or advertising, that you offer a free shoot. Like it's not completely out of realm.
She does it like probably once a month. She chooses a different family, but sometimes it's repeat families.
Yeah, but I would only imagine the types of people, right? Everyone's different, so it's like,
yes.
Also, I just think it's admirable, like, whether you realize it or not, like, you are teaching your girls how to be gracious when given a gift, right? Like, hey, she is doing us a favor, so we need to make sure that we are being respectful about that, right? Like,
it was funny at one point she said, like, she set a pretty firm boundary because she asked what the girls like to wear. And I was like, Beckham is like all dresses. Like, she loves a dress. That's just her in general. And Kalia is pretty flexible, just anything cutesy and frilly she's all about. And she's like, "Okay, I'm just going to let you know, like, what I bring is what they're going to have to wear. I'm going to bring 3 different things. Like, one of them's going to have to work, and I can't promise that it's going to be a dress. So I just need you to manage expectations with her previously." And she was very firm on it, kind, but firm. And she did everything voice memo, which I loved because it was like, I was able to hear her tone. Like, it was awesome. And literally after she sends it, Lex is like, "Oh, she's had bad clients." And I was like, "Huh?" And he goes, "Oh no, for sure. She's had clients that have, taken advantage of her because she is very clear on her expectations." She did say, she's like, "It could take like 8 weeks to get these photos because these ones they're not the paid for photos. So like, I've got to get my clients that pay their photos."
Yeah.
I was like, totally. You could take 6 months and I'm okay.
Just like maybe like a sneak peek.
But even then I was like 6 months, fine, I don't care. Can I see him before I die? Great. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I was grateful.
Did I tell you, before we dive into our topic, did I tell you that we're like what we're doing this summer for ours?
No.
Okay, this is very exciting, just since we're talking about family photos. We're doing like a big summer road trip where we're going to go to California, like visit my family in Northern California, Henry's in Southern, do a bunch of stops along the way. It'll be like 2 weeks. But one of our stops is going to be in Santa Cruz, where we got engaged. And so I just hired the same photographer who did our engagement, and then she'll be able to photograph our whole family, and it will be exactly 10 years later.
Oh my, I just got full body goosebumps. You should
Yeah.
bring a metal detector and find your ring.
I know. We definitely have to take a picture of there. Hopefully I get my ring back because I've been wearing this cute little band, which honestly I love simple bands.
Yeah.
But my actual wedding ring, it was missing it was missing one diamond for the longest, I swear, and then a second one fell out. And I was like, okay, I do want to get this.
That's like $600 right there.
Yeah. But I've shown no urgency. So I feel like maybe if I just call one time.
Yeah.
Just checking in, maybe they'll kind of push it along.
The warranty doesn't cover it.
Well, I think that my warranty wasn't up to date because with those, you have to go in every 6 months, get it checked and cleaned. I was not doing that.
Funny enough, I should have asked me. So when I got my wedding ring and wedding band or my engagement, whatever, put together, this is not the same ring, but because my ring sat so low, the engagement ring sat so low, the band couldn't fit around it. And so they cut out a chunk of the band with diamonds.
You had diamonds for me?
So I literally have this little Ziploc, looks like, never mind, little Ziploc itty a little mini Ziploc bag with diamonds in it. And it's been in my wallet for how long have I been married?
Oh no, I would be the same way. It's one of those things.
It's in my wallet of all things. Why do I have it in my wallet?
Dude, you could have gotten family photos a long time ago.
Because it really is 8 little diamonds that they had. Because it was a pretty wide. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it all.
I don't even know how to sell those. I'd be like, what do you do with them?
Go to a pawn shop and get ripped off.
I'll go to Zales and try to sell it to them.
True.
They clearly need them. Will this expedite your process?
That is too funny.
Oh, okay. So what are we going to talk about today, Trina?
We're going to be talking about how everybody's battling something.
Yeah.
Whether you know it or not. And you probably want to share why we came up with this topic, because that's kind of the thing that sparked it. There's a little story, and then we can kind of go off that.
So we always try to, whenever we're choosing our topic, make it something relatable in that season for us, or in that moment, or what does the Lord put on our heart that we're working through oftentimes. And so this is funny. This actually happened yesterday. So I coach softball. I feel like I've talked about this a million times, but I coach at a private school, and tuition to go to the school is almost $30,000. And so I think I've made the assumption that if you have money, you are entitled a little bit, not always, because there's been seasons when we've made enough to send our kids to private school. And so I just think that
it's the default stereotype, right? Because sometimes in your mind, you'll meet people who are the exceptions, but in general, that's kind of where your brain goes.
Yes. And I think it's maybe more so there's been certain things that I've seen that I'm oh, and I see a little bit of entitlement in some people. And then I'm it's bias confirmation for sure. And so am I wrong about it? Absolutely. Not everyone is like this. That is totally my own issue. I need to work through, and I can own that. However, we have to do uniform drop off, meaning the girls have to bring me their uniforms so that I can check everything back in, make sure we have everything. And so essentially the kid can go to the next grade, because they won't let them enroll in the next year of school unless they've either paid for new or they have returned what they had. And so there's been now 3 different opportunities for these children to return their items. And I have several of them that just no communication from them or their parent. I've had one of them literally tell me that I need to come get them. And I'm like, excuse me. And then I had one that just completely ghosted and had said nothing. And so I grew progressively more and more frustrated, as one would, because I am showing up. Literally, I don't need to show up to the school anymore. I'm done at the school. I can do everything at home. And I have my life. So I don't need to be running back and forth to the school to everyone's beck and call. It kind of feels entitled, for lack of better words. And so even last night, one of the girls was like, oh, I don't have my stuff. And it was the last night to bring it in last night. She's like, I don't have my stuff. And she's like, I'll bring it tomorrow and you can get it from me then. And I was like, I'm not going to be here. I don't come to school every day. I don't work on campus. And she was like, oh, her dad's standing right there. And he's like, yeah, we'll give it to so-and-so in the office. And I was like, that still requires me to come to the school to retrieve your stuff. And he was like, well, and then walked away. And I was like, so I was already on edge about this, but I sent out a list to everybody. Hey, these are the girls that are missing things. I was very positive. I did not say like, shame on you. I was just, these are the few items that need to be retrieved. And like, these are the girls that haven't turned anything in. Can we please make sure that you bring it tonight? I
and it wasn't an individual text because there was enough. Like,
yes, it wasn't. I didn't single
things,
one person out. There was like
7
of them, and 6 of them. And so one of the moms messages back and was like, "I need you to handle this on private forums and communicate with me directly in the future." And I responded back with love and was nice, but I literally was like, as a matter of fact, I did. I sent you an email 3 days ago and I still have yet to hear back, but I'm so glad to hear from you. Like, let's go ahead and coordinate when we can have these dropped off. I was kind, like I was not rude, but I send the nice email and I start ranting to my husband. And I don't call anybody names. Listen, if you know my husband, if I want to gossip or if I want to be a brat, I have to like whisper on the phone. Cause if he hears it, he's like, knock it off, which I don't, usually yeah, regardless, I try not to do any of that because he's not going to let me. So you know what? Get yourself a man that will let you gossip or won't let you talk crap about anything. But I'm just venting to him.
Yeah, you're frustrated. So you're trying to get it out.
Yeah.
He's a safe person. You're not going to take it out on the person.
Absolutely. And I was more so just talking about like, what is this like thought process? Like I would never expect a coach to go out of their way to get stuff that I was supposed to have already done something with. Like this is like an hour later, I'm venting to him. And I look at my phone and I have an email. And I open up the email and it's one of the moms that's saying that her and her daughter are currently in hiding and there's a domestic issue. Quite literally, she can't even go to school for the last week of school, which is all the fun. And they are getting protective orders and they're quite literally in danger. And she's like, I will get you the stuff as soon as humanly possible. I just have a lot going on. And I can't even get access to my home right now to get the belongings. And I instantly felt this horrible gut punch. It was like, I literally actually out loud said, shame on you, Kaylee. Shame on you. Because honestly, like, yes, could the other ones be being entitled? Sure. But how do I know that if like 6 of them are being entitled, which there aren't 6, how do I know that 5 of them don't have a story of something actually going on in their life as to why it's going on? And maybe there's only one that's being a sourpuss. Maybe it's just that dad that's like, get over it. Like maybe that's it. And I'm over here lumping them all together. And I instantly was like, oh my gosh. And I had to repent hard. And I felt so convicted instantly. And I started crying and looked at Lex and was like, I screwed up. And I didn't say anything to anybody, but like, even my thoughts, like, even my response, I was like, this was wrong. I was wrong. I was dead wrong. And so when you were asking, you're like, okay, do we have a firm topic for tomorrow? I was like, yeah, we do now. Because
this one's fresh and
everybody
real.
has a story. Everybody has something going on. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in our world that we just forget and like don't take into account or consideration that like everybody has something. So
totally,
that's what sparked this.
This one is, like you said, the gut punch, because they are clearly going through something very serious. Safety, like all these big
fear,
things, like that is a little bit more tangible in my mind than also like those silent battles people are going through, right? Like people act the way, like, you know, you project onto others how you internally feel. So you have people walking through life on that spectrum, which we all do,
hurt people,
exactly. Yet then there's circumstances where it's like they are in a life, or at least like, trying not to get hurt, like very serious circumstance that prevents them from coming to you, Yeah. So I can just imagine that feeling of like, oh man, like the 180.
Yes.
Immediate. It's not even just like, because I think that in my mind, if it's a silent battle and someone just has a hard time because they tend to be selfish, it's like, we still have to give them empathy, even if it's frustrating. But like this one was something that it's like, wait a second, this is something outside of your control that you are now battling and dealing with and having to work through. And now whether you do it or not, I feel like I just added pressure to your situation, and like you're dealing with something bigger than a uniform.
Yep. Yeah. Like and it's so frustrating because she didn't show up to the banquet last night, and I said, oh, is so-and-so here? And they're like, no, I haven't seen her actually. I haven't seen her in a little while. And I should have like instantly had that be like, red flag. I did not deserve that. It very much so made me think like how easy it is to miss when someone needs grace. So have you had ever any situations where you've like misjudged someone only later to find out like what they were going through? A good example is like Chadwick Boseman. Everybody was like, oh, is he on crack? Like, and then he was actually dying of cancer.
Just the other day, I actually was talking to Jax, like my kids, because Jax and Mina are in first grade, just finishing up first grade.
Yeah.
And they start to, like, friendships change, right? When they're little, everything is cute and innocent. And I still want to view my kids as innocent and other kids as innocent as well. But they are getting older now.
Yeah.
And there is much more like the boys, like Jax this year, he's never been angry in his life. Like testosterone, right? Like it's all part of development. And so just lately he's been like, more attitude, more this, more that, and like talking amongst friends who all have 6-7-year-old boys, like everyone is going through this right now. So I was like, okay, well, that makes me feel better. But we were talking, and like I said, he's just been having major attitude, and I was kind of coming at him like flippant and just being like, what is going on? Like, this is so unlike you to act like this. Is something happening at school? And I kind of said it as in like, I'm sure everything's fine. Like in my head, it came out.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, sometimes. And that was my check of like, shoot. Like, I really, because he is typically out of all my kids, the one who's fine. And resilient, the one I don't have to worry about. Yeah. And all in all, like pretty positive and easygoing. And he's just always kind of had that about him. But he's still a person. He still has feelings. He still goes through things. He was like, oh, like what's going on?
This is actually
a
like, thing.
Oh, well, then let's talk about it. And he tells me a scenario, essentially like he was playing kickball with friends, and the friends like who were on the opposite team like ended up kicking the ball away. And like, we're not being nice about it. I don't know the exact dynamics of what exactly happened, but regardless, it affected him. It hurt his feelings. And that situation he told me about didn't even happen that day. So it's like, if it's taking up that much mental space, it clearly affected you regardless of what happened. And so he told me that, and I was like, okay. And then I just explained how at the end of the day, like, we don't know what other people are going through and why they act that way. Like, we don't get to then meet them with anger. Like, if someone does something because they got angry and it was a bad choice, we always do like good choice, bad choice. Like, if it was a bad choice, then we don't hold that against them. Like, I explained, like, the best medicine is forgiveness, to just let it go, and explain to him how sometimes that person doesn't even have to say sorry for you to forgive them.
Yeah.
And just fully, like, they might be having a hard time at home. We ended up having a good conversation about it. But for me, it was like that sobering moment of like, what is going like that? What?
Yeah.
I don't understand why you're acting this way. But regardless, it's like all kids struggle. And so it's just we had that conversation. But for me as a mom, I was like, you know how they say like, check on your strong friends. I was like, check on your strong kids.
Yeah.
Because they still need that motherly, because like I spend so much time, because my girls have bigger emotions, figuring out how to communicate, how to get through their feelings, and like so much of my attention is put there that oftentimes I'm like, you're good, right?
Yeah.
And that probably doesn't help either with his little attitude. So that was like the most, I guess that does answer that question.
No,
that I,
for
look
sure.
back.
Yeah.
Because I did have that moment of assuming, like, why are you
You're
acting
just being
this
a
way?
brat.
Like, you're just exactly putting that on him. Like, why are you just being disrespectful? Why are you talking to me like that? Da da da.
And there's always something.
And I was like, oh,
it's hard with kids because there is that balance of like, well, there are times that you're just being a brat. Like, there are those moments. That's kind of like the next question is like, how do you? I think kids are their own. That's just parenting. It's like the balancing act of both and.
That's where I think parenting is so like healing and therapeutic, because I got to have that experience of being the teacher and having to like explain, and that just reinforces your own beliefs of how you should operate through life. Because yes, that's a specific example for my son, but I am sure like I've gone through life where someone at a grocery store, or you know, when you feel like the judgment on yourself, like someone looked at you some way and you're like, what's their problem? You know, where it's like,
yeah. Well, that's
all those
that
little things.
I was just telling you about this earlier. So, example for me when I've been the one that's not okay. So, grandma died in September, and I was out there for about a month, and I took care of her about 2 weeks before, stayed with my granddad about 2 weeks after. And so grandma dies, and my grandpa is Mr. Fix-It. And my feelings were kind of out the window. Like, it was like, I am there to help grandpa at this point. They were together for almost 50 years, like head over heels in love. That was his best friend in the whole wide world. And so when she died, it was like, whatever grandpa asks, grandpa gets. And so she died at like 11. And then he decided he was going to start a new project that evening, and was like, I need you to go to Lowe's and get all of this stuff. And he hands me a huge list for Lowe's. And mind it, we live in the middle of the national forest, or that's where, when they adopted me, I lived up there with them, but they're still up there. And it's an hour and 5 minutes to get to the Lowe's. And I'm like, okay. Mind it, I am having these moments where I'm driving on the road on the way there and just bawling, and, you know, where I'm still processing.
Because when he really hands you that note, I'm sure that your initial response was like, seriously?
No, like, actually, I was like, are we?
You're making me, grandma, just what?
Yeah. And like, and
then had to flip it like, oh, wait.
Yes.
Okay. Let's support him.
No. And I honestly, so I said, I think it was like milliseconds, because I was like,
yeah,
for real. And then I was like, yep, you got it. Because I called it like the yes month, where my granddad and I'm the only person in the world, well, my grandma was, but like me and my grandma, the only two people on the face of this planet that could say no to my granddad. And I was never like blatantly disrespectful, but I would give him a run for his money. And still do. Like, it's just, that's our relationship. And all of the grandkids are like, what? Kaylee can say anything she wants to this man. Anyone else says that, he might hit us. But we just have that relationship. And while I was there, I was like, that relationship needs to go away. I am going to, whatever he needs, the answer is yes. And I think that's probably why we're so close, is because I know when he needs me to be Kaylee, and I know when he needs me to be like Angel Kaylee. Like, I just know him, and I can see what he needs in that moment. And so that whole month was just, yep, whatever you need. Yep. And he would talk to me nasty and be mean to me, and I'd be like, yep. Okay, grandpa, what can I get for you? Like, let me do your laundry, you know, just whatever I can do.
Yeah.
And so I go to Lowe's, and literally I'm still processing, because I hadn't slept in weeks, like 2 weeks straight. I'm not kidding you. I'm sitting in a chair next to my grandma because she died at home. She was in hospice, and I didn't know how hospice works, but hospice is essentially a nurse just comes by the house, but like there has to be a caretaker. And my granddad is on oxygen, basically blind, deaf. Like he's I don't know how he lives, honestly, but I love him so much. But he couldn't do it. So that's why I was there. And so because I was so on edge all the time, and not on edge like to fight, but like, what does she need? What does she need? What does she need? 24/7. I was like, okay, I need this medication now. I need this medication now. I need this medication. Let's change her. But I didn't sleep because I was always so scared that if I fell asleep, she would have passed while I was sleeping. And so I would fall asleep for like an hour and then like jerk awake and be like, are you alive? And so when he sends me away, I'm also coming off of 2 weeks of not having stepped more than 20 feet away from her. And now she's gone. And it almost feels like the first time you leave a newborn baby when you're like on edge. And it was so hard. So I go into Lowe's and I'm starting to get anxiety every time I'm like, I'm missing something. Something's wrong. And you don't realize how quick your body gets conditioned. Like it was only 2 weeks. But it was 2 weeks, 24 hours a day. So I didn't realize that it's that fast that everything can just like shift in you. And so I'm in Lowe's trying to find everything. And this list is pretty lengthy. And I'm just exhausted. Can't even like decipher what item he needed. I'm so overwhelmed. And I remember just like grabbing the railing and I'm squatting down and I am weeping in Lowe's. And it was like, anybody walking by would be like, this girl is tripping. Like, and a guy comes up to me that works there and he's like, okay, like, what can I do for you? And I was like, I'm so sorry. And I didn't tell him what was going on, but I was like, because they're about to close too. So that was also the anxiety of it was I am not coming back with you better take me to jail because I'm not leaving without these items. And so the guy's like, okay. And he calls in his little walkie-talkie. There's like 4 people that come over and they divide the list up and they're running around the store getting all this stuff. And they all come in like 5 minutes and they have all of it. And I'm not kidding when I say I just like that. Then I break down even more because it was just the act of kindness that I needed because I'm exhausted. And when I put like, I shouldn't have been driving. I was so just like running on adrenaline. Yeah. I was like, it almost felt like I was under the influence. It did not. I felt like a walking zombie. And I was still trying to process the reality of grandma's not here. Like I'm not going back to take care of her. And it was just so much. And so I was like, I don't think you guys realize how much this helped. My grandma died a couple hours ago. I'm her only caretaker and I haven't been away from her. And this just overwhelmed me so much. But your guys' kindness, like I will never be able to repay this. You don't understand what you just did for me. It was so simple for you guys. You're just doing your job. And I just get in the car and just break down. And it was like, these people probably have no idea the monumental thing that they had done for me. And I didn't tell them before. It's one thing if you tell somebody what you're going through and they step up. It's a whole different feeling receiving it, knowing that these people owed me nothing. And they stepped up knowing nothing. Once I told them, you could just see the guy was like, I could see something was wrong. But he didn't ask. He just said, how can I serve you? And I felt like that was the most Christ-like thing I think I've received. They just stepped up. I received grace like no others that I didn't deserve from these people. They showed me grace. And how can I now do that to other people? Okay, well, I maybe missed this chance the other day. But how could I fix it moving forward?
Totally. I mean, that is beautiful, obviously, but also just inspiring. Like you said, it just shows you what you want to be for other people and how, because ultimately, I know both of our hearts, like we want to be the people that serve others who maybe don't deserve it or don't seem like, you know, And for the simple fact of this whole topic, you don't know what other people are going through. It's even like in the last episode how we talked about you can't judge people because you don't know what they're battling. Like, maybe they're living in sin, but maybe they're battling that. Maybe that's, and there's so many scenarios and situations that someone could be going through that because we just don't know. Yeah. And oftentimes people are not walking around airing out their laundry, like whatever is happening, and they're not supposed to, but it is our responsibility to meet people with kindness and empathy and love, and to be Christ-like regardless of how they're acting, how they're treating us, all the things. But it is also so easy to come from that selfish perspective of like, I don't deserve this. I don't, it's kind of also piggybacks off the last episode of like, protect my peace. No, you shouldn't treat me that way, which obviously there's things that happen in life that people are going to wrong you. Yeah. And yes, you didn't deserve it. But then it's like, how are you going to respond to that? Yeah. Right? Like, it is one of those hurt people, which is frustrating. Doesn't mean that like, maybe your gut response, I want my gut response to be,
how can I
kind
serve you?
And yes, I do crave that. But that doesn't mean that's how I feel all the time when people are not very nice. It's like, what is your problem?
Well, and it also, like going to the uniforms and picking up the uniforms. I'm even processing this now as you were just talking. I was like, what would it hurt me to go to their house and pick them up? That is my own ego and pride. That's like, you come to me. I'm the coach. Why wouldn't I say, would it help you if I came by and picked them up? Before I even knew the story, I should have said that. That would be the Christ-like thing to do, is say like, hey, it seems I know there's been 3 times. I'm not upset about it. If you want to bring them to school, that's okay. But would it make it easier if I came and grabbed them from you? Like, I think in our fleshly, this is again, same as last episode, like in our flesh, we are so concerned about making a point or being right or fairness. It's all so stupid of like, what am I protecting in myself? Like, if I'm supposed to be Christ-like, it reminds me of John 4 when Jesus was leaving Judea and he was going to Galilee. And it's a story of the woman at the well. And he specifically says he has to stop in Samaria. But if you look at a map, from Judea to Galilee is just a straight line. He chose to go the longer, the harder, the more exhausting route because he said, I have to stop in Samaria. We have to go through Samaria. It's in scripture. He says, I have to go that way. And everyone's like, for why? But he was so intentional because he had to meet that woman at the well. And so how can we meet the person at the well is Jesus went out of his way, the longer route that was going to take days more. It's so inconvenient for him. He did not need to do that, but he chose to do that. And so it just reminds me of that, where it's like, my goodness, I can just go out of my way. I need to go to Samaria. I can show up at their house and pick up the freaking uniforms if it just takes the load off of them a little bit more. Because again, I don't know the other people that haven't turned in the uniforms. There might be 4 other stories like that. How do we know? Like, and if I can just be the person that's at Lowe's that goes out of their way, like it gives me such a reality check. God wants us to go out of our way for people. That is what sets us apart. Me being annoyed and in my flesh and frustrated is what is worldly. And what sets us apart? It's going the extra mile for people, whether they deserve it or not.
Well, and you talk about the flesh too, because again, to be Christ-like is to not be fleshly.
Deny
right? Like
your flesh. Yes.
Exactly. So when you speak on that, it's also like it's human to meet someone with the energy they give you, right? Here in your situation, you're being met with an assumption that they're acting entitled, So in return, you acted entitled, right? I mean, if you zoom out,
I will wear that 100%.
And we've all been there. I call them the mini victim moments. Like,
fair.
Because we are both like anti-victim mindset. Like, no. You don't deserve anything. Like, you know, like
we are not entitled to anything.
Life doesn't happen to you. Like all the things. It happens for you. But it's also, it happens so much. Like I can speak just as a mom, like the amount of times throughout the day that I'm like, these kids, like, do they know what I do for them? You know, that you have those little moments in your head where you're like, why are they acting like this? My whole life revolves around you guys.
Literally, I'm at your beck and call.
But they don't see it that way, which
nope.
is okay. But, you know, but I'll have those moments where I have to swallow my ego, swallow my pride and be like, no, like that's not the perspective we're going to have, because the moment you go down that road of I do this, I do that, it's entitlement, literally, then it's not a good feeling, energy, vibe, like whatever. Like I'm thinking about that specific situation when I feel that way towards my kids. I am so irritated. I have literally made up the decision in my mind that whatever you do right now, I'm going to be irritated because I feel like you guys are not being grateful for what I do, you know, and how many eyes did I just say? You know, it's like, and I have to check myself constantly of like, no, like we are not doing that, because that's just makes you miserable. Like it's not enjoyable. It's not fun for the kids to be around. It's not fun to live life that way. I mean, that's what I tell my kids all the time when they get stuck in their feelings and I'm watching. It's easier to you know, to give advice
than to take your own advice.
Yes. When you see it, especially like in my kids, I'll watch them literally, like even Mina this morning, she was looking at me so angry. She did not want to go to school. And
she's getting to the end.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, come on, girl. The teacher said you got one more week of academics and then it's a fun week. Like we could do this.
We can push through.
And she was just so angry, so upset, did not want to go to school. And wasn't like she was getting like, she wasn't like distraught, but I just saw it. Like, I mean, she said it and then I saw it on her face. And I was like, Mina, we cannot wake up this morning and decide that we're going to be angry today. Like the day hasn't even started. We can't make the decision before anything happens that it's going to be a bad day. But it's like we do that so often in such a small basis, in interactions, in situations, when you're at the grocery store, when you're in your own home and all you want to do is finish laundry and your kids keep asking for a snack or opening something or they need your help. And you're like, I just want to finish the laundry. Where it's like, what is more important right now? You know?
Yeah.
Although my kids have used that one too.
If they've said that to you?
Oh. They'll be like, what's more important, Mom? Me or what you're doing?
And like, that would be the day. That would be the day.
But they use it when it's not appropriate. One day it was like Levi was bleeding and one of the girls wanted something, right? And that's what's like, and that one's hard because you're like, I can't do the comparison between you guys. Who's more important? But situationally, like I was able to use it like, okay, well, Levi is bleeding. So the priority is to get him a Band-Aid. Like, I'm not saying he's more important than you. I'm saying the situation calls for that to be a priority.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How many Band-Aids do you guys go through in a matter of a week?
I don't know. We get the Sam's Club bulk. Yeah, we're not doing cutesy Band-Aids in this house. We got the practical, those, you know, like the fabric ones that are really good.
Yeah.
That stay on.
Oh my gosh.
Those are the ones we're using.
I don't even think we have Band-Aids in our house. I'm dead serious. I'm so stingy with them. I'm like, is it bleeding down your leg? Nope.
Oh,
nope.
Me too. But once Levi turned 2.
Oh yeah, no.
Had to have Band-Aids on hand.
Oh, he's such a tank. Like that's the only way I can ever describe him.
He's hilarious.
Oh, that's so funny. So the next thing I was going to ask is, what do you do and I'll give context. So I have had a situation where I communicated that I wasn't okay, and I was met with anything but grace. So I playing college softball. I missed a class, and I had gone to my coach and I said, I'm not okay. The sports trainer came in and said, she's not doing well. And we had communicated, managed expectations, and made a plan, I guess, of if something goes wrong at any point, she's allowed to come straight in here. Miss a class, and we had communicated this to my coach, and my coach still suspended me from practice for a week.
That's hard. And I think that age is really hard. The first thing I think of is, which like is hard because in this situation, like there were like consequences. It's not just somebody being mean to you after you open up about something. Like there was legit something done to you as well. I guess
and you can change the scenario, I guess. But I think my feelings in the moment were like, I was so let down.
Yes. No, I mean, my gut response is just like, we are not responsible for how other people treat us and how they make decisions and what they do with it. It's unfortunate, of course, because I know how hard it can be to be vulnerable. Like when you do open up and you're like, well, this is going on. Like I'm actually asking for help, and then the help isn't received. That's very disappointing. But obviously, like zoom out, I think that person clearly has their own battles, right? So in this situation, I don't know what I would have advised a friend, or, you know, when my daughter gets to that age, right? Like at this age, I think of my kids and I'm like, well, I'm the parent, so I can then do something if something's wrong, right? Like advocate for her. So I think at like a college age, you just really have to learn how to advocate for yourself.
Let's change it. Change it to like, if it's a friend. I remember when I was struggling with postpartum, it was right after you had just moved to Austin, and I had opened up to one of my friends, and she was like, oh my gosh, I'll totally be here for you. And then push came to shove, and literally I never heard from her, like ever. And I know she had her own life, but it literally was, I'm like, don't agree if you don't want to be it. Like, I'd rather you just tell me, sorry, bro, I have my own stuff. But what do you do in that situation?
I think that this actually, you bring up both situations. There's two things I think of. First, people are going to disappoint you, right? Like we were talking about being of the flesh. Like it's just, they might not. You hope not, right? Especially when you're coming from a place of opening up and asking for help. You don't want people to disappoint you. Like that's when you need it the most. But on the other hand, facts, people disappoint people where God will not. And so it's like, it just reemphasizes to turn to him first. Rather than, and it's not saying like don't turn to your friends, don't ask for help, like absolutely not, but it's like go to him first, because honestly maybe he would have dropped the right person that you should have reached out to. Maybe if you would have prayed about it, he would have put some, you know, like dropped a nugget in your heart and mind of, oh, this is what I should do, or let me try that. Because when you're left to your own devices, oftentimes it's a spiral. And if you're already spiraling, then it's just going to perpetuate that and make it worse. It's unfortunate because I don't like that. Like this, I'm such a positive Polly of like, I don't like that people do that. That's why it's so important to me to find the good, like people, community that you know will be there for you. But that would be.
No, that's essentially, as you're talking, I was like connecting all those dots myself of like, even as I was asking the question, I was like, I think I know the answer.
Because I just figured that one out.
Because it is so like us to try to find the solution in the flesh and try to find the solution for ourselves and try to figure it out for ourselves. Because then Alexis and I's solution was, well, let's move to Florida because we have a community of people there. And that's not where God called us to move. Honestly, the only thing that got me out of postpartum depression was the Lord. Like that was it. And I kept for the longest time trying to go to people to help me out of a mess that only God could get me out of. And so it's, I had godly expectations of humans. There's always going to be something like everybody's going to mess up at some point. But yeah, it is, we do put godly expectations on humans, and humans are fickle and they mess up, and we all have something. Like
we all make mistakes.
Yes.
We all
I was the one that was wrong.
Yeah.
Like I was the person when I try not to be that person.
I know exactly. It also makes me think of, I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. Like I call them healthy habits or alignment, or doing the things that support your relationship with God. Because to me, that's where the alignment comes from, putting God first and then finding the habits every single day that support that. And I was actually just talking to Henry yesterday. I feel like I've been drifting a little bit, just like I'm not dialed since January, and I can't believe it's already May. Like last year I would get on the treadmill and walk every single day, and I have voiced how that is so good for me. Like it just fills my cup on so many levels. Like obviously it's good physically, but it's also good for me mentally, spiritually. Literally it knocks all those boxes. Now, since the beginning of this year, I was thinking like, I don't need to walk every single day. And I've kind of been talking myself out of,
you're like, I'll do strength training instead today. I'll do.
But in general, that's just led to me not being consistent in anything. Like just kind of going through it. And the hard thing about that is it ties into our last episode of it's kind of been okay. It's worked out for me. Nothing too, like, it's not like I've gained a bunch of weight. It's not like I've fallen off the deep end of anything, but on my like internal soul level, I know that that's affecting me. Like I know how I feel when I am dialed in. And for me personally, part of that is my walks. Yeah. It's also a bunch of other things as well, but like
it's a culmination, but that starts with that.
Yes. I wake up early. I have more
It's literally
time.
what you're starting your day with.
Exactly. And all those things. And the revelation for me was when it was my birthday. I was like, okay, how can I have my best day tomorrow? Like, what can I do to have the best day? And my first thing was like, I'm going to get up at 4 a.m. And I was laughing. I was like, wow, this is your 30s.
Not I'm going to stay up till 4 a.m.
Yeah, not like, oh, I'm going to go party. No.
Like, get up early.
Get up at 4 a.m. and walk on the treadmill.
You're so cute. I love that.
But it really, and then it made me think, I'm like, then why am I not doing that every single day?
I was just about to ask, could we ask?
Yeah, that was to me the God slap in the face. But I only say all of these things to get to the point of when everyone's thing is different, everyone's routines and habits and what they need to do to feel close to God is different, but that's part of my process. And when I'm closer to God, I am the person that watches someone with road rage and I'm like,
I'll pray for you.
I should pray for you. Like my gut response, because I am doing things that support me to be closer to God, is to act more Christ-like.
You stop seeing the world for the world and you start seeing it as like in the spirit where you're like,
yes.
Oh no. Oh. Yeah.
Like you literally, you see the world differently. And it's a byproduct of you nurturing your relationship with God, where when I'm nurturing my relationship with God and I'm just kind of like winging it, drifting, whatever, making those choices, it's a slow drift. And then all of a sudden
you feel a big gap.
Yes. And it's like, and then I'm left to my own devices of stress and irritability and seeing that in other people, and it's like, and then it's also, I mean, I'm not saying all these things are wrong. Like that's where it's like feelings, facts, but it's like, I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm doing so much. Like, yeah, they don't know what I'm going through. Like, this is hard. The quote, like, just because I carry it well doesn't mean it isn't heavy.
Yeah.
It's for me personally, it feels like a mini pity party I'll start throwing for myself of like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. But it's like, I've also had the equal amount of things going on in my life and have still felt full of joy and peace. So what am I doing? How am I creating that? Right? The shortcut is just to be close to God.
Yeah.
But how do you do that? I'm such a practical person. Like, how
what's the system that creates that? Yeah.
And I do, if I can, God's gonna do his thing. But if I can be more obedient and more peaceful and joyful and create myself to be in that headspace more and all that, to listen to him, then I need to do that, because I just know how good it feels to be close to him.
Yeah. That's so, I mean, I was just about to ask you, how do you slow down to see the person that needs the extra dose of grace? And I think you answered it nail on the head. I think as you were saying all of that, I was like, oh my gosh, have I drifted? Because I feel that the more spread thin that I get, the less grace I give, and the less I see the moments where God needs me to work. Because, I mean, God needs me is very, very presumptuous that I'm needed. No, God's giving me the opportunity. So
I like the phrase that's kind of, you've said quite a few times, that's really like gotten in my head of like, I don't want to miss my moment.
Yes. And so
I think that's the best way to, like,
in the moment. And so I think that I've missed, especially so I'm coaching far more than I ever have, like far more. I have 2 separate teams. I'm now homeschooling. There's a lot. It's, as we're even talking about it, the one thing that slipped on us is prayer night. Night of prayer is Wednesday nights, but that was also the only night that Lex and I had together. And so I think if I really look at my life right now, I've drifted in a sense. And I know I'm not my absolute best self right now. And that's probably it. Like, and I even saying it, I'm like, my goodness gracious. Oh, I wanted to spend time with my husband, but instead we'll sit at home watching TV, snuggled up. But what's more intimate than on your knees next to your husband praying at night of prayer with worship? Like, that is what, like, night of prayer is quite literally where I hit my knees and prayed for the Lord to deliver my family from whatever it was that was wrong, because I knew something was wrong. I'm on my knees praying, telling God that we're ready for change. At night of prayer is where I said that prayer, and the next day we're delivered from it, and he reveals it all. And now that I'm in the season of peace, now that I'm in the season of it all being good, I've now stopped going to where I got healing. Like, that is so silly. That's like the person that if you had cancer and you got chemo, they don't see any more signs of cancer, but you don't finish the treatment. It's like when you have antibiotics. How many of us take the antibiotics and when we start feeling better, we don't finish the dose? Well, that's really not good for you. Like, it's so interesting. And so I think that, thank you for saying that, because now I'm realizing, holy cow, how did I miss this mom needing grace and compassion? It's because I'm not at my most intimate. And now am I praying and talking to God all the time? Yes, but like, that's not the same as when you are in a room full of 100 people that are on their knees, literally weeping, worship music playing, the Holy Spirit has invaded the space, and you are just interceding for your family, interceding for others. Like, oh my goodness gracious. Wow. Thanks.
Love I just love revelations. You know, like, it's my favorite thing. I try to have one daily. Like,
what is
because
it?
it's like,
and
you do have to self-reflect and realize, and that is literally, I mean, the enemy's number one is distraction. We've talked about it so much, right? Yep. Like, how often do you pray and you are thinking of something else, or, like, or your mind wants to do something else, or even when it's like in this moment, how you admitted, like, oh, you end up like watching TV with him versus getting on your knees, like
in prayer
for God.
Oh gosh.
But it's also like, you don't want, like, that's what the enemy does. He tries to justify. Henry and I were talking about this yesterday, and I need more like thought on this, but my gut feeling is anytime you have to justify something, you're probably making the wrong choice. Like, if you have to negotiate Like, and I'm not saying, obviously you could do that in the positive way of like, no, I should do this. But like, if you are justifying something to yourself, I don't know. It's a question. Think about it.
No, I
think
love
it's
that.
Right.
I
like,
think so.
Every time you start going back and forth in your head, like you already have the right answer. You're just justifying the wrong one. Like, for example, okay, my tire might have a hole in it. This is real life. Henry's on the road recruiting. This is my morning.
I love this.
This is fun. So it's crazy hair day. My default is to go all out in whatever
all
I
or
do.
all, baby. Those kids have wild hair.
I see Spirit Week. I'm like, what do I need to buy? Which is,
You're not joking.
No.
You literally waited your entire life for these weeks. So this is
we love a theme around here. So actually, Nova's hair looks really cool. I'll give myself some credit. But I like did the hairspray, did the glitter, did a crazy hairstyle. So we were like 20 minutes late to school today.
But they had crazy
but
hair.
It was worth it. And getting in my car, I see that my back left tire is like, so like you have the warning light. It's low. Like, oh, it's not just a little low. It's like there must be something in it. Like maybe not.
But it also happened it
like,
wasn't like that yesterday. So you clearly ran
correct.
over like a nail or something.
Yes, I probably ran over something. And I'm like, well, I'm already late. Like, God, we got to get there. Like, I know. I'm like, please, favor. Can I get to there and back and not have to pull over? Thanks.
That'd be lovely.
And so that's what happened. But anyways, all those like scenarios, Henry's gone, the things come up. It's so easy for me to be irritated or, you know, I could easily say something in my head of like, oh my gosh, like this is such a, like, why do things keep happening? It's been a hard, like, I just feel so stressed out. Like, why isn't he here? Or I have so much going on. And just once you get in that mind space, or headspace, it's like so easy to just entertain irritated, frustrated thoughts or think, oh, I'm going through so much right now. Like I need other people to cut me slack. Right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, no, but if I had a great day, I wouldn't expect other people to cut me slack. Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's just like those expectations that sometimes we put on that like, and I call them mini pity parties.
Yeah.
Of like, I'm going through so much. Well, everyone's going through so much. And I say that sensitively because, again, I don't want to, I am an empathetic person. This is just probably how I talk to myself. Like, you know, and it's like, I don't want to invalidate anything that you're going through. And it is probably hard, you know, but we also have choices at the end of the day on how we handle that. And I do believe there are ways to handle hard that turn to God and make it easier. Like that's kind of what it comes down to.
That's the other side of the coin. So while we talk about this whole podcast so far is how do we show the person grace? I guess that's the question of like, when you need the grace, do you need the grace from people? Like you don't, you shouldn't.
No.
You like really at the end of the day, it's not how we are treated by people in this world that like determines, because I think the most godly thing to do is while Jesus is being persecuted, well, he is being treated with anything but grace. When he is being abused and tortured, he still had it in him to forgive those that were the persecutors. So I guess that's so while I was being done wrong by my softball coach, or while I am feeling like the largest injustice, the most godly thing I could have done is say like, man, I forgive you because I can see that you couldn't see that I was going through something, or it really wasn't your job to necessarily care. Your job was to build a successful softball team, to keep your job and feed your family. I forgive you. Like that. So it is this double-edged sword. So while you want to be the one that gives endless grace upon grace and love upon love and show up for everybody, yes, we all want to be that. It's how do you respond when you don't get that? And I think that maybe I expect people to love on me. I expect from people what I would give to people.
Oh, don't we all? Totally.
Yeah.
All these conversations also just remind me of something I've been teaching the kids, which of course, like if you're teaching something to your kid, typically it's something
It's on
that
your
like,
mind.
either, yeah, you're still trying to figure out, or you figured it out and like you struggled with that as a kid or most of your life. So you're like, no, I really want you to know this.
Yes.
So, and I'm also so like, life isn't fair, right? Where I think oftentimes, especially as a kid, they want everything to be fair and nothing feels fair to them.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, honestly, this is very fair. Like half the times they say, this is unfair. I'm like, no, you don't know what fair means then.
Yeah.
Anyways.
You're very this subjectively speaking.
Yeah. It's just not catering to you. But anyways,
Yes.
I always say like among siblings, among friends they'll come home and say so-and-so said this to me, or sports. And typically it's like something bad. Like they said I wasn't good, or they said something, something that didn't sit well. It wasn't a compliment.
They were angry.
And yes. And I always go, like, is that the truth? And they go, no. Then it doesn't matter. Like if you don't have to prove to other people who you are, like God knows your heart and you know your heart. And that's where like I'm trying to teach them, like that is the confidence you have to have, is that if you know the truth, nothing else matters.
I've struggled with that.
Trust me. I mean, this is definitely one that I'm still like have to not, because I do care about, or I used to care more about what other people thought about me.
Yeah.
And it's still I've come a long way, but it's still something that will take up mental space.
For sure. I want people, and it's not that I think people need to know I'm perfect. People in my brain need to know the truth. And so it's like, if somebody thinks that I am, it goes back to that church when my kids are acting a fool. When somebody thinks I'm neglectful, I'm like, no, you need to know the truth. Like my kids are my absolute world. I'm home with them 7 days a week. I am a good mom. I love them. I care about them. I feed them. I clothe. Like, I mean, obviously those are necessities, but like, no, I need to know the truth. Or when somebody thinks when I accidentally feel like I don't show up for a friend, but I didn't even know that they needed something or something like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you think I'm a bad friend? Oh my gosh. But there's just something so toxic is the best way to put it about this world, where you feel like you have to constantly be on edge because you don't want to be judged for something that you're not, or someone to think.
Well, that was, sorry, it just reminds me, it kind of goes full circle of like, you don't know what other people are going through as well. And this, one of the topics or situations I thought of was when we first took in Mina. We had Jax, who was 4 months old, and she was 13 months. They're 9 months apart. Mm-hmm. I would be out in public with my double stroller, them looking very close in age.
Yeah.
At least at this age, like babies look like babies and toddlers look more like toddlers. So you knew there was a gap. But people would be like, literally all the time.
Oh, I remember this.
Are they both yours? Yeah. Are they twins? Or like, oh, like how far apart are they? Just because you really like, when you look at them, you're like, yeah, they've got to be close. And in the beginning, I would word vomit like 9 months, and I wouldn't know what to say, because I knew their next thought was, oh my gosh, you had babies back to back. Like,
oh, you were I remember you like, saying at one point, like, somebody at one point was like, you didn't wait 6 weeks, or like something.
Yeah,
like,
or just, and it was
or
more
that was
like,
a thought that you thought that they were I remember that being talked about, and you're like,
yes,
they think I'm some freak in the sheets. Like, I didn't even wait 4 weeks. Like,
yes, no, it was more like, it wasn't so much about what people said or anything. It was my own fear of judgment of what they're thinking, because they're going to say whatever they want to say, but it's like, to me, and maybe it was also my own fear of like what I would think of somebody else who had kids in only a 9 month gap. Like, oh wow. And so I remember in the beginning, like strangers, I would word vomit. I don't even know what I said, but I would be like, oh, like I don't know if I said we're fostering her or something, and then I like would walk away from those interactions. I'm like, why did I just say that?
I remember this so clearly.
Why I don't need and that was not the first, but it was one of those situations that I had, because it wasn't going to be the last time someone said something. Like, people kept saying
still to this
stuff,
day, I'm sure you have people be like, are they twins?
Oh yeah, when I'm like, oh yeah, they're in the same grade, are they twins? No. And at this point, it's a little easier because we have healed a lot
and officially adopted her,
like,
and she's yours.
Yes.
And
where at that time I was like even confused myself. I'm like, well, like, so I just didn't know what to say, and I came to the point where I was like, just don't say. It doesn't matter. Like, they don't, especially strangers. Like, let them. That was like my beginning of the let them. Like, I know the let them theory is like very popular with Mel Robbins, and there is elements to that are so
explain that
and
explain that theory.
So it's and honestly, I probably could look it up. I just know through social media, but it's like essentially, it really does encapsulate what we're talking about. Like, when people do you wrong, or when somebody, like, let's say you are having, this might be a silly idea, but like, or scenario, but like, you're having a birthday party and one of your friends decides to do something else than come to your birthday party.
Yep.
Somebody, like, let's say that was me. Let's say Kaylee decided not to come to my birthday party. I could easily be like, well, that's messed up. Like, I thought she was a friend to me. Da, 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 da. Where really, it's like, obviously we're closer than this example.
No, you're fine.
But I don't know, like, maybe she has something going on that she's not ready to talk about, or all these things. But essentially it's just like, let them. Like, we don't have to get all worked up and all like affected by someone else's decisions.
Yep.
Just let them. And if you want a birthday party, you're going to have a birthday party. Like, you know, and it just goes to like every single situation where it's like, or if somebody cuts you off, let them. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to get angry at them? No, just let them. Let them do that. Like, be safe. Be a good defensive driver. But, but other than that, like, we can't control other people, and we can't control how they act or how we want them to act.
Well, yeah, that encapsulates the whole topic. Let them do what they're going to do. They like it, you can only, I mean, this just comes down to, you can only control what you can control. And that's just that. Another
phrase that I heard that really stuck with me is observe, don't absorb. So in situations that could cause you, like, I think of it more as a parent. So like, when your kids are driving you crazy or they're having big emotions, the best thing for us as parents is to be self-regulated and calm and centered. But it's very easy to absorb someone else's energy. So even if it's a social interaction in a grocery store, even if it's at home, whatever, we take on other people's emotions without even realizing.
Oh my gosh. There's book. Have you read the book, The 4 Agreements?
Did I? I know about it.
So good. It talks about exactly this. And I mean, you can finish and then I'll kind of go into what they say.
Yeah. But essentially it's like, make sure you are not absorbing other people's energies or feelings. Yes. Like, just observe it and be like, and kind of take that step back and see it for what it is, and then respond. Versus when you're absorbing, you're gonna end up reacting and probably not in the way you want.
That's this whole topic.
Feeding off of it.
That just nailed it. Whole topic is observe, don't absorb. Oh my gosh. That's
just got there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Only an hour and 45 minutes in, but that was phenomenal. Great job. Because the book that I went straight to when you said that is The 4 Agreements. And it talks about how when somebody is in a negative spot, and this is fully spiritual also. So like, the book is not a Christian based book. However, you could take the principles and totally apply it biblically. It's 100% accurate. But when somebody is in just Debbie Downer, negative space, just purely pity party, but even beyond pity party, anger. It talks about how it's poison. And there's a shot glass right here. And they have all of their poison. And this is the whole hurt people. When somebody is so riled up and angry and frustrated, This is why people have I just need to vent. Okay, well, be very careful when you're on the receiving end of a vent session, because without you realizing it, they have this shot of poison that they are handing you, and they're saying, drink it because I can't handle it anymore. That energy has to go somewhere. And have you ever vented and suddenly you're like, I feel better? Well, guess what? The person that you just vented to took a shot of your straight poison, and now you just handed it to them. And so this is biblical. There will be the spirit of bitterness that you have on you. Well, the way that the devil works is he wants to just pass those on to everyone else, and they will just hop from you to me. This is how you have like a birthday party. This is Real Housewives of wherever. How one person walks in with bitterness and frustration. Everyone can be having a good time. And suddenly, for lack of better words, that demon just hops around the whole party. And now everybody is throwing drinks at each other. F-bombs are flying and cursing each other out. And I hate you. And someone spits on somebody. And then it's like, what the hell just happened?
That escalated quickly.
It's literally because someone had a shot of poison, the devil, and they walked in there with it and didn't want to carry that shot themselves, so they just passed it along and everyone else took a shot of it. And so how you stop it is, like my mom did this the other night. Because we're now speaking, she's talking to me and she's enraged about something, and she understands because I've explained to her the poison. I was like, I love you, I'm not drinking this poison. I was like, I can't, I'm not going to engage in this. I can't. And she was PO'd, because when someone won't drink your poison, it oftentimes, because it's demonic, will get even more riled up, because you want to find a way to give negativity. You want to get it off of you, so you got to give it somewhere. Well, I was like, I'm not going to do this. What we can do is I can take your poison and we can pray about it and ask God to take it. Because guess what? He wants to take that poison. But I just said, I was like, we can pray about it. And then she got angry. And that's how you know it's demonic, is when you ask someone if they want to pray about it and they get even more mad. You're like, okay. And I literally was like, no, enough. And I said it, I was like, God, I said a little prayer before. I was like, Jesus, like under my breath when she was ranting, I was like, prepare her heart, because I'm about to just, nope, we're not doing this. And I was like, no, you're not about to hang up. We're not ending like this. You don't get to do this. You're not going to let the devil win. He's not winning this relationship anymore. I'm not freaking doing it. And she was like, well, I was like, no, hush. I'm not speaking to this anymore. We're not speaking about this anymore. We're going to pray about this and we're going to be fine. And she was like, well, Mom, that's it. We're not doing this. And she was like, okay. And I was like, yes. And so we prayed about it. Totally fine. But it's, I'm not drinking your poison. I'm not absorbing it. I can observe it and we can pray about it. But I think the one thing we have to just remember is, like, while I won't drink your poison, I need to pray over your poison. Well, I won't absorb it and I observe it. Everything I observe, I need to pray and ask the Lord and invite the Lord even into situations that aren't mine. So, well, that's not my situation with my mom, but I'm like, I'll help you out of it because I love you.
Like on what? Like, number one, don't bring it to me. I don't want it. No, thank you. God.
Or if you do, expect us to pray about it. You want to bring it to me? We're going to pray about it.
And two, yes, God, please help her too. Like, you know,
all the above.
Like, don't let it come to me, but also meet her where she's at.
Yeah. And so I love that. I mean, I feel like that's just like the synopsis of this whole thing. And I'm grateful for that. Like, observe, don't absorb. I think you just changed my life.
I love short phrases because those are the easiest way to, like, okay, like, I'm in it. Like, I'm starting to absorb. Nope.
No, and it's a visual representation. And I think shots to me is like, I
like that one too.
But I don't, I guess I think of drinking it, but no, like literally I can picture myself as a sponge I think when I think of like a shot, you have to take it. Whereas a sponge, they don't mean to absorb. They don't mean to. Yeah. That's just their nature.
Happenstance.
And you have to almost keep a little bit of a gap so you don't absorb. Like, no. I'm not going to get this close to this rant. I don't want to be hurt in the process, but God can keep that from happening.
Yes. No, totally. And it's like you will be in any situation much more helpful if they're not absorbing what the other person is going through. Because also I even, this one is not the same concept of absorb, not observe, but the one that like helped support that was like another concept of, it was essentially like when you do take on, like essentially this was a parent-child example.
Yeah.
When you do take on someone else's emotions, like they're really upset and you just want to take their upset for them. Like, I'm going to wear your upset. You are robbing them, and you cannot be empathetic when you take on their sadness. But if you do meet them where they're at and don't take on their emotions, you can actually be of service and be helpful.
Yep.
Right? And you are more sound of mind to hear God and what he wants you to do.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you start taking on someone else's emotions, no matter what it is, happy, sad, mad,
all of the above,
all those things, you are then filtered to make decisions based on those feelings.
Yeah. I in therapy learned a lot about, it's just codependence. I think people think codependence means, oh, I can't go anywhere without somebody, or I can't, like, that's such a, and maybe I was just wrong with how I thought of it, but codependence is actually, I can't be okay unless this person's okay. So it's being so attached to a situation that you're actually hurt by their hurt, and you are affected by the outcome of the situation in your life. And it's so, the way that my therapist explained it is, you have a street, and if their side of the street is a complete disaster, you can't, even though your street cleaner has come over and over again and your life is good, because their side of the street is a mess, you can't function well on your street because you almost are like mentally on their side of the street. I'd had a bad habit of, if one of my friends is going through it, and this comes from trauma, I would, even growing up, I would feel like I couldn't be okay at school unless I knew that my mom was alive and okay, which every kid would be like that. But when it's engraved so deeply in your head, it just becomes a lifestyle where I latch on to problems, and I literally will be like, I'm with you until the end, no matter what. That's where like this ride or die mindset comes from me, is like, no, if you could be going through the worst. And so one of my friends actually called me out about this, and she's so wise for this, but one of our friends was going through something in their marriage, and I was in it with her because it reminded me so much of us. And because of that, I was every day, how's it going? How are you feeling? What do you need? Multiple times a day, texting, following up, checking, opening our home, like everything, just so in it, that then, because her husband was behaving the way that Alexis used to behave, I start behaving the way I used to behave to Alexis. And he had to be like, whoa, I am not so-and-so. I am a different person, but you're treating me as though I'm the past versions of myself. And I'm like, am I? And so my friend reaches out to me and she says, hey, you're a grown woman. Do whatever you want. But I'm going to tell you what I see. And I love you so much that I'm going to tell you, and like, do with it what you will. But I think you need to distance yourself. And I was like, seriously? Can you see that? And she's like, this is the best you've been in a relationship with your husband ever. And you've somehow dove back into someone else's problems. And it doesn't mean that you love that person any less. You still pray for them. You still stand in the gap for them, but you don't need to be tangibly involved. You need to remove yourself. And I was like, oh. And I literally removed myself. I even had to like put do not disturb on. And I still love the couple that is going through it dearly. And like, I will stand in the gap for them and pray for them. But for my own stuff, I was starting to be codependent, where I couldn't be okay if they got into a fight, because I would be like,
well, because in that street analogy, what you were doing was picking up something on their side of the street and just moving it on yours to help them out. But then you don't realize that you're putting junk in your front yard, like metaphorically,
no, for sure.
you know, it's just the same with like feelings, or like, as I always think as a mom or a parent, it's like you want to help your kids, but are you doing it for them, or are you teaching and helping?
Are you teaching them how to cope with the problem?
So funny how you realize you're like, oh no. So when,
relatable.
Oh, no, this had such good intentions, but here we are. So when I knew Henry was going to go in this profession, I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom so that I could be the constant in my kid's life. Beautiful, right? Like, it sounds great. I always thought it was like a nice sentiment, which it is. But then now I wanted that so badly for them. I have created a codependent relationship, especially with my girls. Like, they just have that in them to like need me because I've always been there, and I've always helped them work their emotions. Like, when they get big emotions, I'm the one that needs to be there. Not saying I do everything right at all, but they just associate, if I'm overwhelmed or I'm uncomfortable, I need my mom. Where I'm like, oh no, like, I need to teach them how to do it without me, which is like all fine. Like, this is like, but it was just like one of those things that started with such good intentions. Yeah. Then created this other dynamic that I'm like, oh, we gotta adjust, because that's not healthy either. Like, you know, I do want to be the constant in your life, and I do want to be available and be the best mom I can be, but at the end of the day, I'm not being the best I can be if I'm the one fixing everything for you, so that when you grow up to be an adult, you don't know you're calling me every 5 seconds. Like, no, it's important to figure things out on your own, but it's hard to do that sometimes when you have that natural
caretaker.
You know, you care for them. Yes, you want to help somebody, and it comes from such a good heart.
You're a nurturer. So I was like that, and then I watched a video on gentle parenting, and he teaches on how there's a difference between permissive parenting and gentle parenting. And so gentle parenting is like, you're gonna have to cope with this. I'm gonna walk you through the coping skills and remove myself so you can execute those. But it was so wild, because it was like, when you punish your kid, you can't punish them and then 2 seconds later go be the one that hugs them and helps them through it, because that's not coping. They never learned coping skills. You can't also be the one that like runs in and is hero 24/7, because they don't figure it out. So that's it all comes down to codependence. And I think that there is this balancing act of, how do you show up for people being Christ-like? Because like, Jesus was okay if someone wasn't okay, but he healed them. Like, it's this, he was perfect. So how do we do this? How do we show up for people and be okay if they're not okay, but also love them with our whole heart, but also show up and pray for them and be the people that they want to be? Like, how do I not be codependent with my players' parents, but also show up to their house? And I don't know. It's a balance. We're figuring it out.
I think that it reminds me just of something I've been thinking about lately, and like my obsession with learning how to surrender is like, you start with like the right intention or the right, you know, motive or all those things, but then you have to let go of the outcome. I think the codependence comes in when you become invested in what's going to happen next. No, serving has nothing to do with expectation of outcome. You could serve somebody and they don't even like you, like, or don't even like what you're doing for them,
or don't even know you.
Yeah. I mean, we can't, like, that's where the pure heart of service, I think, comes from, is just serving somebody and then letting it go.
I mean, that's fair. Duh. I guess you plant seeds. That's the whole, you plant seeds and then someone else comes along and waters them, and then you're never going to see the harvest necessarily. Yeah, that's fair. That's good. Thank you. Got me a good therapy session for free. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So synopsis of episode. Love people always.
A big recap.
Yeah. I can't even think we could recap. I think my biggest takeaway is obviously observe, don't absorb, but also like what can you do to go out of your way for somebody? Like, how do you be the person at Lowe's that goes out of their way, whether they have to or not? Like, what did Jesus do? He went out of his way to meet the woman at the well. He went out of his way. And so that doesn't necessarily mean you're being codependent, but he did go out of his way. He had the time. It didn't hurt him. He was in no rush. I think that just the whole thing, slow down. Slow down. You're in no rush. Just slow down.
No, it's so true. I also think, and then to even, how do you do that is kind of what you said and then it goes back to the practical things that we all got to do to be close to Jesus. Like, if you want to act like Jesus, you got to know him intimately. Mm-hmm. And you have to remind yourself of that daily. Yeah. Momentarily. Like, it's an active walk. Like, it's not something that, becomes easier, of course, but it doesn't mean it's a flip of the switch. And then all of a sudden you just go through life like, oh, I just see everybody, it takes active intention and work to show up like that. Yeah. Because it is so easy not to. Yeah. And to just grow frustrated or be reactive when somebody else isn't nice to you. Right.
Yeah. It's also, just last thing. I know we can go last things for years, but it is interesting because I was told years ago by my mentor, I think I was like 10, literally, and it still goes in my head. She says, if you're not going up, you're going down. There is no neutral. And so I think also when we're talking in this episode, I'm like, okay, God, what gets me the closest? What gets my family the most breakthrough? It's prayer. And can I pray at home? Absolutely. But where is my most intentional, intense, like groundbreaking Holy Spirit encounter? It's at night of prayer. There's no distractions. I'm realizing that if I haven't been going to that space, that's why I miss the moments of slowing down, of seeing the person that needs the extra minute. And so if you're not going up, you're going down. There's no staying the same because you're either growing towards Christ or you're, unfortunately, this sounds really intense. You're either growing towards Christ or you're falling towards the enemy. And it's this constant tug. One is winning or one is losing at all times. And at the end, we know the battle's won by Christ. So let's not get it twisted, but it is a battle on the earth to who's winning in the moment. We know how the battle ends, but there still is a battle right now. And so I just, in order to see the person that needs the minute of loving, you're right. You need to go to where you meet Christ and like spend time intentionally seeking him. Because I think that's how I missed it. Because when I'm at my best, I would have heard the comment of, oh, I haven't seen her in a while. I haven't seen her at school. Where has she been? Because
something must be wrong.
What's crazy about it is when I look back, I felt the Holy Spirit slept of like, I don't even know how to explain it. When like, and you look back at something, you're like, I felt something in that moment, but I ignored it. And it wasn't even that I was intentionally ignoring it. I was just moving so fast and so caught up in my own thoughts that I didn't recognize that I remember that comment and I remember the feeling I had, but I kept it pushing. And so how I missed it is because I haven't been intentionally seeking those moments of deep surrender and intimacy and seeking his heart. And so I've kind of lost for a little bit, I don't know how long it's been happening, but I've caught myself drifting away from it, which has caused me to miss that moment. And I don't know how many of those moments I've missed, but I just am going to pray like, Lord, give me more of them to make up for it and send someone else to do the assignments that I missed.
Well, yeah. And it's like, if you're not changing it, you're choosing it, because that's what a drift is. It's you being unintentional. Mm-hmm. It doesn't always mean that you're being
malicious,
intentionally like, I'm not going to follow Christ. No, it's a drift because it's like when you're in water and you're not paying attention to where you're at, all of a sudden you're so far away from the buoy. Like, how did that happen? It's because you weren't paying attention. You weren't doing anything intentional to stay close to that buoy. And it's like, that's why I think the drift is such a good word to use when you're talking about that, because it happens when you are unintentional about your life.
And you could be doing
in your relationship.
You could be doing 5 different things that you think. I mean, this is terrible, but I study the Bible. We read the Bible. We have intense conversations, but I'm also even reflecting now. We read the parts of the Bible, not parts, but like we're reading the Bible because we want to know what happened. Like we're reading like Old Testament because I'm like, I want to be equipped to have conversations. And like, I'm realizing, oh my gosh, I haven't been reading the Bible to have intimacy with Christ. I've been reading the Bible so study. I can know. And to study is great, but like, I've been reading it like a textbook. Oh my gosh. No, like, and it's almost so that I feel like I know. I'm going to be completely transparent. Like, it's so I feel like I know. So that like, if someone asks me about something, I want to be able to say like, oh yeah, that happened in 1 Kings. It was back when, like, oh my gosh, I repent. Because what egotistical. Thank you, Jesus. I repent. Oh my gosh. Because
I love you. I will let you have this. Because I know those feelings where you're like, wait a second.
Oh my gosh, lifetime revelation, y'all. Because it's just so ego. Jesus, take my ego. Because like, and it's not, it wasn't from malicious intent. It was so that I could like talk about, honestly, this. My mom's got a friend that's a Jehovah's Witness, and I'm like, oh heck no, like we're not doing this. Like I know a lot of the scripture to back it up, but like I also know, like, you know what? I'm never going to get into a situation where if you want to argue about my God, I want to be able to defend God. But like, he doesn't need my defense. He freaking wins. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Like, and it comes from a good intention, but like, if I'm reading the Bible, I should be able to meet God at the Bible and have him teach me something new that's going to impact me and like change my heart posture. I'm so glad I'm having this revelation of like, wow, yes, I do need to go to night of prayer, but also when I'm going to do my Bible studies, it's like humble myself, go to him with humility about God. What do you want to teach me and reveal to me about yourself and your character? Holy smokes. Okay. Thank you. I need to go rewatch this. I'm going to walk away a new woman.
Oh, I love that. That's real life conviction too. Mm-hmm. Like that's such a
lifetime. You want an example, people?
Exhibit A. But that's where too, like anytime you have these moments where you're like, wait a second, like, have I been doing this all wrong?
Yeah.
Or like, but I had done this better.
Well, it started good. And at some point, you know, you drift.
Yeah.
That is so
but
good.
That's where like you gotta follow up with so much grace, as much grace as you would extend to somebody else who could easily oversee a situation or something like that. Yeah. It's like we do the same thing with ourselves towards others, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay.
Yeah. And you'll find that the enemy will, and I'm not going to glorify him because he doesn't deserve any glory in this, but when you know God, he has to be more cunning with how he works. And so the drift is the enemy. You don't just drift on accident. Like it's a slow drip campaign that the enemy is doing. But this is why habits are so important, because the enemy will work where it's like, oh, one decision. Ooh, one decision. Whereas if you're not as devout in your faith and you can catch it, like you can see sin for sin. You're like, no, I am not going to be going to the club because I know nothing good happens after midnight and I know nothing good happens in that building. Like, you know what I mean? Whereas when you know Christ, he's going to be more cunning with how he does it. He's going to be more, it's just going to be a little thought that you agreed with, a little thought, a little thing. And
well, and like what a great example of how, like, if we're talking about habits, like you said, you are reading the Bible. You are doing a good habit, gold star for Kaylee, right? Like, you're doing one of those things that should provide intimacy with God. However, the enemy has snuck his way in there to then change your intentions.
Yep.
Right?
And it's all about heart posture.
That's where it can be not so great.
Yeah. And then that's how you lose the grace for the person that needs it. When it starts to impact how you behave, that's when it's like, oh gosh, how long has this been going on for?
Yes.
Like how, oh my gosh. And now it's so good. You know what, guys? This is why God is so good, because guess what? I can repent and say, Lord, forgive me. Search my heart. And so now I need to make the habit of more often, because I think about it and I'm like, when was the last time I prayed that? That specific prayer of, Lord, search my heart. Anything that's not of you, reveal it right now. I did that last year and it completely changed my marriage. I was on my knees in prayer night. Search my family, search our hearts, find anything that's not of you and remove it. Take it out. I am ready for how painful it's going to be. And now I've prayed the prayer about my heart and been like, God, search my heart. Anything that's not of you, sanctify me. And that's great. I'm not even mocking myself. I know I use my mocking tone, but like, I don't remember the last time I did it. It's probably been 2 or 3 months. Genuinely. And that's kind of hard to say because you want to pray that one often.
Well, that was like I got to that. Well, I mean, there's so many points. I'm sure there'll be a point in sometime this year. But like, you know, you do get to these points where it's like you're walking with Christ. You kind of find your groove. It feels good. Soul level feels good. You're feeling your, like, everything. You're reading the Bible. You're listening to
You go to church every Sunday.
You're doing the things. And then all of a sudden, something happens. Like, for me at least, I felt like I was doing that for like a year or two. Like, not perfectly, but I was pretty devout.
You were showing up.
Yes. And then at the end of last year, I started having, like, it was just like such like self-deprecating thoughts on a more regular basis. Like, I had been battling those and was winning, for not saying like I never had a self-deprecating thought prior to that, but I was just so locked in with Christ that it's so much easier to be like, nope, we're not doing that. Right? Like when you were saying, Lex will be like, nope, we're not doing that, because that is like a decision, a choice that you're like, no, I'm going to nip this in the bud right now so it doesn't become something bigger. Yep. Where when I know for myself, when I am dialed in, it's so much easier to be like, nope, we're not going there. When I'm not dialed in and I'm tired and I have all the excuses in the world, then I can become kind of more in this like funk. And so that's when I started realizing how important these habits were. And then this last time, because like it was the end of season, again, circumstances, whatever, like I was not doing all the things that I was doing 2 months prior. And it was wearing on me because I wasn't as close to God as I was 2 months ago. Yeah. Like I was drifting majorly. And that was a bigger drift, where the drift I'm experiencing right now is like, it was just my birthday. There's things, I mean, I wasn't consistent with the walks, but then it's also like, I was talking to Henry yesterday. I was like, the dangerous thing about this is that I am getting by, but I don't want to get by. I don't want to just be okay. Well, imagine like, now this is where this is my moment of like giving myself grace. I'm like, everything's okay. Yeah. And nothing bad has happened.
Yeah, same.
You know,
like, we're
like,
okay.
Everything's okay.
I have not been a monster. I am not off the rocker. I am not off the bandwagon.
Yeah. But I can have this mental check right now because I know that's a justification. Everything's fine. It's okay. It's not as great as it could be. So just keep doing what you're doing. And then guess what's going to happen? You're going to drift further. And then all of a sudden, in a month or two, I probably would become more like, you know, for me, it's like that. I call it the hater in my head. I listen to the enemy more when I drift and I hear his voice louder. Yep. But when I'm dialed in with God, it's easier for me to tell the difference between who's talking to me.
Yep. 100%.
Right? So it's like, that's where I'm coming from, of like, dial yourself in so you are familiar with the voice and you know when it's not him talking, versus when you drift, it's really easy to hear the enemy and think it's yourself.
That is so good. My gracious. That
we need to stop talking now because this is
like 2.5 hours in. Dang it.
Here we thought.
And then we chose a more like compacted episode where like this topic is going to be clear and concise, but here we are. No, I'm so grateful. This has been such a good episode. And I just, even last night when I was like, whoo, Holy Spirit, I hear you. We're doing this. So thank you for, thank
you, God.
I'll pray this week. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for just being so ever present and so kind and so gentle in your delivery of things. God, I thank you for revelation. I thank you for just speaking so clearly to us today. I thank you for the fact that where 2 or more are gathered, you are present, God. I pray for every one of our followers as they are, and every one of our listeners as they are listening to this, God. I just pray that they feel the Holy Spirit so clearly, God. I pray that this meets every person it needs to meet, God, and that they just feel seen and heard and loved by you above all things, Lord. God, we repent for every time that we have missed the chance to be used by you, God. And we ask that every opportunity that we miss, that you just send more of your people and your angels and just get the job done. God, I pray for more opportunities to show your light to people. I pray for my player and their family, God, that you just show up so big for them, God. We love you. We bless you. We praise you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
Yay.
So,
well, God, also let us know what our next topic is. All right.
Amen.
So thank you for joining us this week. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next week.
All right. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.